So today was the X date for the YieldMax Group D distributions. I want to show you what it looks like on the chart on the X date and how the distributions affect the price. And then I'm going to give an example of a time that I would look to buy more shares of MSTY. Hello my friends, this is Legend. So today we're going to take a look at the Webull chart and we're going to just see what it looks like on the X date when that distribution comes out of the share price. And then we'll follow up with an example of what I'm looking for when I'm looking to buy more shares, some of the indicators that I'm looking for, and we'll give an example of that. So let's just go ahead and start right off and we'll take a look at the Webull chart. Okay, so here we are on the Webull chart and we have MSTY pulled up currently. And you can see yesterday's candle here. That was that nice green candle that we had there. That ended up going up and closing at $22.10. Then today it did open at $20.82 before closing at $20.89. Now it did get as high as $21.11 before it did come back down and close at this price. So since today is the X date, that is why you'll see this gap down. Right? That little drop down. Now we're going to look on the 5-minute chart and get a better example of when that actually happened. All right, so here we are looking at the 5-minute chart and it is currently after hours of Thursday because Thursday the market did close early. It closed at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And tomorrow, of course, is a holiday, so therefore the market will be closed tomorrow as well. So that's why you see a short area here because I can hold it over here and as you can see it's 1300 right there being 1 o'clock. So if I scroll back to last night and let me zoom out just a little bit more so that we can get it all on the same page here, and there we go. So as you can see, last night right up until 8 o'clock then we had that candle sitting at $22 even, okay? And then when it opened back up, this being at 4 a.m., it was at an open of $20.90. Now I think on my previous video I was stating at 4 a.m. is when that price dropped. But I think I was mistaken in that, as if I do turn on the night hours, that will give us a better and a clearer picture here. Okay, so now I've got the night hours turned on. And let me zoom out on this and get all of this onto one screen. And there we go. So as you can see right here at this time, that's that 8 o'clock. And here, this dark purple and this dark purple is from 8 o'clock to 4 a.m. But notice, when I have the night hours over here turned on, it actually did drop after or at that 8 o'clock p.m. time period. So I was incorrect by saying 4 a.m. It actually drops for that X date at 8 p.m. So I apologize for that. I did not realize it until I turned on the night hours. I was just looking at it and noticing that was at 4 a.m. and that's what I was stating there. So that drop is actually on that 8 p.m. the night before that X date. Okay, so just wanted to clear that up first of all. But for a lot of you who don't quite understand how distributions and dividends work, when you get paid that distribution or you get paid a dividend, that does come out of the price of the stock here. Okay, stock, ETF, it's all the same, right? It comes out of that price. And for that time period right there, it did close at $22 even. And then when it opened here, you can see there's that drop. That is that distribution coming out of the price of that stock slash ETF. So whenever it did close here and open here, that is that distribution coming out of that price. So therefore then that's the new opening price, and it continues from there. Okay, so when it did finally open for the day, we can flip it back over to the day chart right here. And there we go. And as you can see, it did open at that $20.82. So overall for the day, it was pretty flat, right? As it did only go up about 3 cents or 0.13%. But still a very good distribution considering the volatility of MSTR. And just to quickly take a look at MSTR, just to see what it did today. All right, and here we are on MSTR, and as you can see, this was that big green candle we had yesterday right here, that we did break over that resistance line, and I said that if we can get a candle to open and close above it, we might be seeing a bit more of an upward movement on MSTR. Now, as you can see, it did open at $400.87, went as high as $414.60. Nice. It went as low as 400.40 before closing at 403.99 for today. So it did have that long wick on the top, but it was pushed right back down. Now that long wick on the top, that's not a very strong positive upward sign, because that means there's a lot of sellers up here that when it got into this range, they started pushing it right back down. And another interesting thing is if we draw a little line at the top of this candle right here, as you can see, if I draw a little line right there, look at that. It hit here and it also hit here. So it both times ended up pretty much closing right there on that line. So that's kind of interesting. That could be another little resistance line right here, but we did go through it. Now the question is can we keep on going through it and surpass this resistance? But that is a lot of sellers right there. So we found the sellers, but now we've got to power through them. Now what can help power through it is the momentum. And this little momentum bar down here on the MACD is increasing. That's a good sign. We still are crossed on the upside on that MACD. That's positive. With some green volume, our RSI 14 is still going up. So we do have some good positive signs for some upward movement. And the after hours looks like we went from 403.99 to 405.75. But do remember, tomorrow the market's closed. So we will end up going through a whole long weekend and then finding out what's going to happen with MSTR and MSTY at that point. So that's going to be exciting come Monday, especially if Bitcoin here can continue moving on up. And there we are. I mean, you can see it. It's hitting that line there as well. We did get past it, but then came right back down to that line. Would love to see it break it and continue on up. We shall see. So moving back over to MSTY here, what are some of the signs that I use or helps me to decide when to buy MSTY? Now, this is just my opinion, as everybody has their own method. But for me, I use the RSI 2 and I use the bottom of the Bollinger Band as a good buy time, as I am looking to buy shares at a lower price to help keep my average down. So to find out those indicators, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to switch my chart here from actual. As you can see right here, it says actual. So I'm going to switch it from actual to the adjusted, as the adjusted is a better chart for viewing the indicators. So let's just switch it from actual to adjusted. Done, and there we go. Okay, so now the next thing we'll do is I'm going to turn on my Bollinger Band, and I'll flip that on there, and there you go. So as you can see, we are still pushing that Bollinger Band up, right? It's all going up. The mid is moving up. The top of it is flaring out some because we are getting that positive momentum moving on up. So that's a great sign, because we need a little bit of volatility in MSTR. And since this is moving up, we can guarantee this is about exactly what MSTR looks like as well, which means that hopefully we're getting some volatility back into MSTR, and we need that on the upside here. We need those candles to keep on going on up. So back to the main thing here is, when do I decide to look to buy some more shares? Well, the first thing, like I said, I look for is I'll have the Bollinger Band on here, and I look for those candles to be below the mid at least, right? I prefer it down at the bottom of that Bollinger Band, like say this candle here, right? When it's down at the bottom of that Bollinger Band, that could be the first thing that I'm looking for. So as you can see, these candles here are all toward the bottom of that Bollinger Band, right? Then the next thing I'm looking for is the RSI2. And this yellow line at the bottom right here, and that's this yellow line at the bottom chart down here. When it goes below this line, and I've got a line drawn here at 10, right? Now there's several times it would get close to it. And during the day, even though it closed just slightly above that 10, like on this candle here, it's very possible, since there is a wick on the bottom, that it actually did go further down, because that wick shows where it's actually been, right? It actually went as far as this point here, which I bet you at that moment, this RSI2 probably just dipped right below that 10. It's very possible. But for this example here, if I look at this big red candle right here where it dropped, so it opened at $19.99 and closed at $18.97, but it also went as low as $18.77, right? But that closed right there. If I look, you can see that RSI2, boom, it closed at 4.18 on the RSI2. So that's below that 10. So right there, that would have told me that I am at the bottom of that Bollinger Band, or close to it, right? I am below the 10 on that RSI2. That could be a possible good buy point. Does not mean it's guaranteed to be the low point, but it could be a good buy point. And looks like we got another one, say right here. It actually got to 1130, but again, you see that long wick on the bottom down here. That means that it did come down further on that price, which would have moved that RSI2 down lower as well. This is only showing, this yellow line is only showing the close for that day. Now, if you're looking at it while it's actually active, you'll see it move up and down a little bit, because had this candle closed down here, then this point for this RSI2 would have been down below that 10 as well. But it's very possible that you could have just happened to see it on the charts and notice it, and you could have made a purchase at that point if you were looking to buy more shares. And again, just because it hits these points does not mean that I'm purchasing. It just means for me, I'm looking pretty strong at it if I have the available cash to purchase more shares. But like I said, that does not guarantee that's a low point or a low price, because if this whole Bollinger Band was to move way up here, and that bottom of that Bollinger Band would happen to be up here on this top chart, right? And it happened to be higher, then whenever it would come down, those candles comes down to the bottom of that Bollinger Band, and that bottom of that Bollinger Band would be up here. This RSI2 is probably going to be at the bottom here below that 10. So at this point, you'd be at a $21 price versus over here, you're at a $18 to $19 price, right? So just because it's at the bottom of the Bollinger Band and under that 10 does not mean that is the low price of that stock. That just means that it is showing a bit of a pullback at that time. And that's what I'm looking for, because we don't know what that next candle is going to look like. Because if we roll the time here and say we were to get rid of all these candles right here, and we're sitting on this day right here, and you're like, you see that, and you see that big red candle down here all the way at the bottom, and you're like, oh wow, I'm in it, I'm buying. It's at the bottom of the Bollinger Band, and it's underneath the 10 on the RSI2. So you end up buying it right there, and you buy it at roughly $19. Well, we don't know what the next candles are going to be looking like. Could the next candle be way down here? Yes, it could. Could it be way up here? Yes, it could. It can be anywhere, right? We don't know. So the only time you've got to purchase is the current time. We don't know what the future is to hold. We don't know where it's going. We use the indicators to help us to determine where it could be possibly going, but we definitely are looking at where it has been, right? And that's where we're getting our indicators, our resistances, our supports, and all of that to help us to understand where it's been, some resistances that is hit, some supports that are holding it up to help us make a better decision at some possible buy or possibly even sell points, right? So for me, this candle here being at the bottom of that Bollinger Band and under that 10, for me, that could have been a nice buy point. What's another one? Right here, looks like it is right there at that 10 and it's at the bottom of that Bollinger Band. That could have been another buy point. And then I would skip all the way over to possibly these two right here. This one here being under the 10. Now, is it at the bottom of the Bollinger Band? No. But is it under the mid? Yes, it is. So that's why I said I prefer it down here, but sometimes it's just under the mid, and this purple line right here, that's the mid of the Bollinger Band. So sometimes it's just below the mid, but it may get below that 10 on the RSI2. So maybe that could be another little buy point. But who's to say that that next candle would not have been down here and the next one be down here, and instead of this RSI2 here popping back up, it could have went from here to down here and then just start being flat, right? And you would have had several times to buy and even get it at a lower price each time. But like I said, you only know where it's at currently. So at that point, when it's under the 10 on that RSI2 and it's at least under the mid on that Bollinger Band, then for me, I'm looking to buy. And here's an example here. It was clear up here. It fell and closed under the mid, but it did not ever get down below that 10 on the RSI2. So for me, I would not have looked to buy, but look what it did the next day. The next day, it popped up. So like with anything, nothing is perfect. It's not guaranteed to get you a good purchase buy. Even if this candle here did drop, say to here, and that RSI2 did drop below that 10, and then you purchased, and then the next day it fell hard again. And that could happen, right? Therefore, you could look at it and say, well, I should have waited, right? I should have waited and bought it when it got down here, because that could have happened. But in this case, you would have looked up and it actually shot up, right? But in my case, since it did not get below the 10, I would have missed that buy, right? Because it was below the mid, but it did not cross below the 10 on the RSI2. So I would have missed this purchase, but that would have been okay because you can't catch them all. So for me, that is my buy points. Below the mid, prefer it on the bottom of the Bollinger Band, and that RSI2 below 10, or at least right there at that 10. So I just wanted to clear up a couple of the things like that. One of them being when that distribution does come out of the price, and that is at 8 p.m. the night before the X date. and what that looks like on the chart, and to also show the indicators that I'm looking at to help me decide when I'm looking to buy more MSTY or any other stocks really. So I think I'm going to wrap it up right there. If you don't mind hitting that subscribe button, smash the like button, it'd be much appreciated. And as always, I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. Please do your own due diligence before you get into any stock plays. And until next time, Legend out.